Welcome to the Palm Springs Wedding Experts Podcast. I'm your host, Erica Mendenhall, and we're here today with Casey Ging, an expert in the wedding planning business. And actually, Casey has over 20 years of experience. So I'm really excited to chit-chat about everything, your knowledge, and kind of what got you started. I'm excited just to have you here.
I know. Well,
it's been a long time. I know we've done a lot of things together in the past because I'm like you, couple decades in, you know, this whole wedding, photo, event business.
Not to age us.
Not to age us at all.
But we have known each other for...
We've known each other for a long time. That's why you're here, so that we can share your knowledge with everybody.
Awesome.
So thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited and so proud of you. And so this is really, really cool that we can do this. I remember a few years ago you talking about it, and I know COVID happened and all of that.
Yeah, the world just shut down, so we did too. And so now we're back.
So we're definitely back. Wedding business came back with a fury after all of that.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
I know. Everyone was kind of up in arms like, what are we doing? And we had a lot of cancellations and, you know, dates moved and it was really sad. It was hard.
It was a super hard time because I had, you know, like everybody, we had so many, you know, just everything already booked and ready to go. And then we thought we could postpone it a few months. And then, then it was like, okay, let's postpone it till next year. And then half my brides just decided to elope and have babies instead.
Or buy a house.
Yeah, or buy a house or, you know, move on with life. And then some people did wait a few years, and then there was that crunch coming out of COVID where then it was like we were just back to back with weddings, and it was a little insane. So but it all worked out, and now we're
on a roll again. I feel like it's kind of like we're finding our groove finally. For me anyway. So I'm excited about going into season now, October, November, December, and then just all the bookings for 24 now. And it's weird to think 2025.
Already getting calls for 25. Which is why, I mean, in the desert, and I think, you know this, and I always explain to brides and everything that sometimes they're like, well, I'm looking like 2 years in advance. I know it's super early. And I'm like, well, for the desert, that's actually
right on time.
Right on time, because we're so limited. We have like a 7-month window. And if you add up how many weekends there are in 7 months, and you take out Coachella, Stagecoach, the tennis tournament, Christmas, Thanksgiving, some of the big things that get in the way that, I mean, some people still are doing weddings and events, but those are typically not recommended times in the desert. We're left with just a handful of weekends available.
With good weather.
So then that's the other thing. A lot of, we don't do a ton of December weddings because, I mean, for everybody else, it's not that cold. For us desert rats, we're like,
it's like 65.
Yeah.
So I can't.
So I got my parka on and my Ugg
me
boots.
too. I know.
With my miniskirt.
Yeah. I'm all in black with the layers and then the camera strapped.
I know.
So it's funny to see, but
I know. No. So, but yeah. So I mean, it's just sort of the nature of the beast of the desert and doing events. So.
Right, and it's been super hot this year. Yes. And windy.
The wind, the past 2 years, the wind is something that I've noticed has really sort of changed the landscape of events. We've had to move and pivot so many events because of the wind, which I don't really remember that. I don't know if I have COVID brain, but I don't remember in the past, like, that many events being ruined or, you know, just having to scramble to figure out what to do because of the wind.
So do you feel like the months have changed? Because I was talking to my husband about that, and I felt like there were certain months that you just knew. I mean, obviously April.
Right. Coachella festers, they bring wind with them.
Bring your handkerchief or whatever you're doing.
But now it's like...
It's moving earlier, I feel
when I have brides asking me, they'll ask a lot, like, well, what do you think about the weather in February? Are we safe to do an outdoor wedding? Are we safe? We used to have, like, specific answers. Like I could pretty much tell you, just pinpoint like that month, that the temperature it's going to be, when the shift will change. Right. And now I'm like, oh gosh,
I'm afraid to say.
I don't know. I mean, we've gotten straight wind from February all the way through the end of May.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I thought so too.
Yeah. So it's weird. And then random like rainstorms here and there.
Yeah. Like the
rain's not usually something that, I mean, we worry about too much in the desert.
August seems to be the
Right.
month, but we don't do a lot of
But we don't
August
do a lot of weddings in August.
I mean,
Yeah.
let's not.
Yeah,
Let's not.
that's not advised at all.
So we will be melting.
We're all like in
We'll be
vacation mode.
melting.
That's why we're able to do stuff like this.
And like we're chilling right now.
yeah.
Casual wear is fine.
Exactly. I don't have to wear a suit. I can
No. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
So that's good. Oh my
So.
gosh. So backtracking just
Okay.
a little bit, what inspired you to get started in this, like events and weddings, and it's for some it can be a lot.
Yeah.
You know, I like the pressure. I don't
Yeah.
know why I'm one of those, but I enjoy it.
Yeah.
So, but what about you? I
No,
mean,
I
there
mean-
must be some aspect
Oh,
like
yeah.
that you just love the challenge of like go
Well,
go
I
go.
do. I mean, I'm already like a super type A multitasker by
Yes,
heart. I mean,
yes.
it's just, I mean, that's just, I'm
Who you
that
are.
person. It's like, I'm the friend that everybody goes to and it's like, she'll take care of it. She'll do it, you know,
Yeah.
family members, everybody. I mean, you know, I like doing all that. So, it was a strange thing. It wasn't like I just like, you know, as a little girl was like, I want to plan weddings or anything like that.
So you weren't like Barbie Dreamhouse wedding,
Nope.
like
No.
Okay.
I had one dream. I wanted to be an actress. That was like the only thing I wanted to do. I was a theater major in college.
Oh, wow.
And went to New York City to live the glamorous life of a struggling actress. And
Yeah.
and I loved it, but you have to support yourself. So
There's that.
so you know, while living in New York City and everything, I got into the world of fine dining service, working in restaurants and doing all that and getting to eat at the best restaurants in the world. And I mean, it was
love
just, it was such an amazing time and experience.
Experience,
And I'm glad I
yeah.
did it when I was young.
Yes.
Wouldn't want to do it now.
Right.
But it was just a great time to like just be around food, service, culture, just all of that. And again, because of my sort of personality, I constantly was pushed into management. And I was always like, I don't want to be a manager. I'm trying to be
Right.
an actress. And But then I'd be like, okay, I'll do it for, you know, for a few months, or I'll help out in the summer, you know, in between shows.
Right.
So I just sort of always kind of fell into, you know,
Gravitated towards
yeah,
that. Sure.
management roles, things like that. So, you know, flash forward, I moved back to Santa Monica, where I'm originally from that area. I was working in hotels again, doing fine dining, trying to do the film and TV thing or whatever, and doing a lot in hotels and stuff, and doing banquets and all of that kind of stuff. So, really, kind of like boots on the ground, like understanding the entire concept
Process.
of how events, everything, how it works, which I think is sometimes sort of the experience that I bring to the table, is that I understand what that busboy is going through at the event. I understand what the person that hung the lights is going through. Like
That's important.
you know, so it's
Yeah.
like I've done I've done every step sort of along the way. So when I moved to the desert, again, I was working in fine dining restaurant, moved into restaurant management, and really just kind of owned it. It was like, okay, this is like
This is what
who
I'm
I
doing.
am. I
Yeah.
love this. You know, I wanted to be a sommelier. I was like, you know, I just really like enjoying the whole process of it. But I always knew I wanted more. Like I wanted to create something of my own.
Sure.
And at that time, you know, I was pregnant with my first little one. And so, you know, when you have baby on the brain and
Yeah.
you have little kids and everything, your whole world kind of revolves around like what's the happenings, what are the coolest shoes, the best car seat, the this, the that. And so I kind of got into the idea of doing kids parties.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
you were so good at that.
It was super fun because when I was in LA trying to do the acting thing, I actually worked for a company where I would be Cinderella and go to birthday parties and greet people. So,
Cinderella.
yeah, and or, you know, Little Mermaid, I got to be all the different characters.
Oh my gosh, how fun.
And it was super fun. And it was a way like my artistic side was, you know, getting to, you know, express itself. But I was like, you know, making money and,
Sure.
you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And so when I moved to the desert, I was running this company and everything. The whole time in the back of my head, I was like, I could run that whole thing. I could do that. I could
Sure.
run my own company. So I did the whole
So you
thing. I,
did.
you know, got the business name and, you know, did all the paperwork and all of that. Actually, when I was in New York, I had a nonprofit theater company.
Oh, wow.
And we were doing off Broadway and everything. So I kind of learned sort of like the behind the scenes also of like managing a company, the paperwork,
Right.
all the stuff that goes to
The
it.
back
you know?
end that a lot of people don't think about.
Exactly.
They think, oh, I can do that, but they don't know half the time there's a whole nother world of.
Exactly. So I kind of learned a lot of that doing the nonprofit side, just managing and budgeting. And I really handled all the business side of it, which was weird because I'm like a theater major, not a business person, but everything is like.
Some things just come natural.
Yeah. I mean, well, and I just, whatever I didn't know, I learned.
You learned.
And this was before like, where you could like Google and YouTube every single
Yeah.
thing, you know? It was like, I just had to like
So-
figure it out.
There's this old saying, utilize your resources. So, like, that was me, like you too. Like, although I did dream of being a photographer from the 110 pink Kodak camera era, like, that was
so
me.
cool.
And so I just knew, like,
Yeah.
I actually thought I was going to travel and do things for nonprofit and write books and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Didn't really picture myself as a wedding photographer until it
Yeah.
kind of evolved into that, which
Right.
then I really loved it. I mean, I still love it, but
Yeah.
but like learning things along the way. I mean, I didn't go to school to be a business,
Right.
right? But
Right.
there's a lot of business.
It's a lot of business
a lot
stuff.
of business
Yeah.
and invoices and contracts and just all the stuff, communication. You know, so I was like you. I
Yeah.
mean, we had yellow pages.
Right.
So that would be a book
I know. It's
that opened up. Everyone got one in their
Yeah.
driveway, right?
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
had like references, like think of business card, but on these pages, and
Yeah.
literally the pages were yellow.
Yeah.
And so yeah,
They threw one on my driveway the other day, and my kids were like,
No
"What is
way.
this?"
I didn't
was
know they
like,
still made them.
I was like, I don't know. And I was
still-
like, oh my gosh, it is.
They still
It was like
make
a different version of
Yeah.
it. It was but it was, I was like,
Oh, I didn't
I didn't
know
know they
that.
still made it either.
I did
but
not know that.
Yeah,
Learn something new.
that's right.
But we
So-
don't need that now. We have Google.
That's right. Yeah,
We
you can
have
literally Google everything.
Yeah,
So
it's amazing.
yeah, but so I kind of started that company, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
when I started out, I was like, I was performing, doing the character work as myself,
And
running the
both.
business, managing a
Wow.
restaurant, and all of that. But then when I was pregnant with my child, all of a sudden I was like, well, I can't
Do all
be
the things.
a pregnant Cinderella going out there. That's a little awkward.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was just like, it's time. I needed to like find somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And interesting, the first girl that I hired, she was 18 years old. And
Oh, wow.
anyway, she's wonderful. She's actually a wedding photographer now, a big
Oh.
wedding photographer out here, and
That's
does really
awesome.
well. So
Oh, that's so cool.
But she took over doing that. And then
Mm-hmm.
I ended up having the company grew, and I ended up having about 10 to 15 employees. I had Spider-Mans and every
Yeah.
princess and just doing all that kind of stuff. And it was really fun. But then somebody asked me, they were like, can you help me like organize a baby shower? Can you help me put together a bridal shower? Because I, was kind of doing like their kids' parties. And then it was like, oh, well, can she help with this? So I started doing more of that. And then someone asked me to do a wedding for the first time. And I was like, well, okay. I mean, I can
Sure.
try it. And it was probably to this day, probably still the hardest wedding I ever did because it was at a private estate. Every single thing had to be brought in.
Yeah.
And
as
you
soon
know
as
how
you
it
said
is.
that, I'm like, oh, I already know.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you know how it is when you do. I mean, there's such a difference between having a wedding at a hotel or a country club where
right.
everything's included.
They have the
you don't have to think
kitchen.
about where how many
Right.
trash cans do I have to order, and I need a dumpster, and things like that. Bathrooms. So that was like a great learning experience. I was like, if I can get through this. And then I just realized I was like, wow, I really I had a real knack. I really love doing that. So I sort of created a spin-off company of like my kids' party company. And then I
wedding
started doing just
version.
weddings. So I was trying to do both. Eventually left the restaurant because now I have 2 young kids. I'm running the kids' party business and doing weddings.
Wow.
So it got crazy. So, but I loved it. I loved it so much. So I was doing, tons of weddings. And then slowly my interest in the kids' party, it was like,
Dissipated.
it started to
there,
dissipate. And
sure.
then COVID kind of really gave me like an official out of that. I was like, you know what, it's time to kind of close up shop with this and, really just, focus on what I'm doing. And
I think that's so good though, because
Yeah.
I think not everything is, a lot of things are for a season.
Right.
So you just transitioned into
totally.
more of what you're probably really passionate about
Yeah.
for that season, because it was
Right.
still really good what you did before, the
Right.
parties and the
No,
kids.
but it's
and
like
it was
everything's
amazing,
a
but it
growing
all
experience.
evolves. Yeah.
Exactly. And it gets you to the next step. Like I always say, and I tell my kids too, I'm like, I don't ever have regrets. I don't
No.
regret anything, even the bad stuff, because everything that you go through just takes you to that next step. And
Right.
sometimes you don't see it in the moment, but it's what is going to guide you. I never in a million, I had no idea like wedding planning was going to be what I was eventually going to end up in. And then that led to doing large scale charity galas and a lot of,
Yeah.
large scale events and getting to
Right.
work with really cool, vendors and people from, out of town and stuff like that. And
So I love the, not to cut you off, I
No,
love
yeah.
the luxury stuff that you do.
Yeah.
I know you don't even share a lot of that on Instagram or anything because it's
Yeah.
private. I
Yeah.
mean, and
Yeah.
we're kind of in the same boat. We don't share
Yeah.
things that certain people hire us to do
That's right.
because it's just not shareable.
Well, and
It's
I
private.
mean, it's one of those things. Everything has been such word of mouth, and everybody I've worked with, has referred me to. Everything has just come off of a referral for this or referral for that. So, I don't even go out there like beating the drum of like, hey, hire me,
But I
or
think
anything.
that's
It's
the best. You don't have to.
well, exactly,
And I'm
I
not
love
saying it's
that.
bad if you
No,
do.
no,
right? For those of
100%.
us that have and do and all of that.
Because
all
I've
of
done that in other
Right. But there
times of my
comes this
life.
point where you are seasoned now. You are an expert. Think
Right.
of all the things you've been
Yeah.
through, all the levels. I like you.
Right.
I'm not beating the drum. People refer me
Right.
and we take a limited amount of whatever it is we're going to do. It could
Right.
be New York Life is coming or some private event somewhere and maybe we'll shoot
Yeah.
it, but that's not something I, really advertise or
Exactly.
someone's whatever, celebrity wedding or something,
Yeah,
And
no.
it's the same with you. I think it's kind of nice.
It is, and it's nice, again, still with two kids. They're a little bit older now, but, they're at those ages where I'm also like soccer mom now. So it's like,
Right.
it is nice to be able to pick and choose what I want to do and what I'm able to do, and have the time for so that I can, that's the great thing about sort of our industry too,
Yes.
is that we get to have a little bit of work-life balance. There's the craziness and the crunch, and the super stress when you're in the middle of it, but then you can take
Yeah.
those off times, those off months if you
It's
want.
the flexibility
That's
that
right.
has always just drawn me.
Yeah.
So that because we want to be good parents,
Well, exactly.
I want to be the best mama,
Yeah.
I can be, but that requires me to be
Right.
present. And if I'm so booked and so
Yeah.
filled all the time, you just can't be everywhere. Even if you have a team, like you
Right.
can't. So being able to now at this stage in our life, in our
Mm-hmm.
careers, really kind of being mindful of who
Right.
fills us up,
That's right.
and having more meaningful experiences with our couples or clients or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm just like in a really good place.
Yeah,
I don't know. And I
good.
feel like you are too,
Yeah, no,
because
that's-
we've just kind of evolved in this. And as
I know.
terrible as COVID was, it was also for me personally kind of a blessing in a way because it shut us down, like literally
Well,
shut us down. And I
yeah.
didn't realize how much of a burnout I was having.
Same. I mean, I think,
mean-
again, with being type A,
Yeah.
like multitaskers, like all the time, it was like that. It was kind of a blessing in disguise. It was
Yeah.
like we had to shut down.
Yeah, I had no choice, and I didn't like it. I was quite upset.
Yeah.
Don't tell me I'm
No,
not
it was-
essential. Yes, I am. I was
Yeah.
like, I don't agree. Wait, who should I talk to
minute.
about this
Yeah,
one?
exactly.
You're wrong.
I
But
know.
and on the same token, I obviously wasn't listening to
Yeah.
anything in my own
Right.
being
Yeah.
that was probably signaling, slow down, time out.
Totally.
Brock would always tell me and still does, like, you don't have to do that. You
Right.
do the ones you want to do. It's your
Exactly.
own business.
Exactly.
And I was like, yeah, but I like to be
Yeah.
busy.
I know.
And so I can still do reading club
Right,
and
right,
and
yeah.
make it to the
And do
shoot,
this, and, and I'm gonna bake cookies
and
for the
have
whole
dinner
class.
ready.
Yeah.
Like, hello.
We can do it all.
We can do it all.
Always.
And
Yeah.
I like to do it all, but I've learned over the years I don't need to do it all.
And sometimes it's okay. I
It's
know.
okay. And I like the random dance parties at home in our
Yeah.
pajamas while we
Totally.
plaster paint or whatever we do,
Exactly.
like it's fun. And
Yeah.
those experiences plus the ones with our clients,
Yeah.
the right clients that like really get us.
Yes.
I've learned now I don't need to prove myself to anyone.
No. Well, and I tell when, brides and grooms and, they reach out and they're, I always let them know, I'm like, especially, I feel like the importance of having a coordinator is, is tops. Not everybody needs like a full-time coordinator.
True.
But I think at a very minimum, they need a day of. And I always tell them, I'm like, whether
Yes.
it's me or it's somebody else,
Yes.
that should be a priority for
Right,
you,
right.
because you need someone to advocate just for you on that day and be your person, and make sure everything's, exactly where you want, how you want it. And if, if my costs are too high, or if I'm just
Right.
not the right person, or,
Right.
or our schedules don't work out, make sure you get that person. Find the right one for you.
It's really important. And the same, I think I'm going to be biased here, but your pictures and your planning, because you're busy.
Yeah.
You should have someone, like you're saying, designated. So
Yeah.
I agree. I always often say, if it's not me, if we're not
Right.
the right fit, and that's okay,
Exactly.
please hire someone to do your
Right.
photos.
No, I mean,
Uncle Bob and Aunt Sally is
Nope.
not it.
I know.
It's just
Well,
not. We
same.
love them.
We do, but
And all have really great iPhones. No kidding.
No,
you know?
I know.
But
I
at the
mean,
same time,
you don't know if someone's filming or if they're like
yeah.
secretly just like texting.
Well,
pretending
there's just
they're
things
filming
that
or writing for
you know what comes next
Yeah.
and what it should look like and the time flow and what's going to
Well,
affect the next
exactly.
thing. And sometimes I think that's the part where people don't have that look ahead. You can anticipate problems before they happen, so
Right.
you can shift.
Right.
So kind of
Well-
with that said, like, have you ever had like a funny situation where you've had to?
Oh,
I'm sure
gosh.
you have.
I
we all
mean-
have.
I
Like
mean-
some wedding snafu or something that you like saved
Oh
the
my
day
gosh.
or like thought on your feet super quick that not everyone would be able to do if hadn't
Yeah.
they had the experience.
So I always tell every bride and groom and mother of the bride and everything,
Mm-hmm.
there will always be things that are going wrong behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
My job is to make sure you never find out about it, and that it doesn't affect you. There's
Yeah.
always going to be stuff. And not
It's
major
true.
stuff, but like
It's true. Mm-hmm.
your bustle. I mean, I've sat with brides that I tell them all the time, make sure you know
Yeah.
someone that knows how to bustle that dress, because we've been in there for 45 minutes now, our timeline's off, things like that. There's or it breaks, or the veil this, or
Right.
I've had brides walk out without their their flowers because they left them over here. I mean, a lot of little things, but at
Yeah.
the end of the day, did it
Right.
matter? And it's funny how the brides calm so much more down on actual wedding day, where all the stuff that was so important, all of a sudden they're just like, yeah, I just want to get through and enjoy this, and
Yeah.
which is great, which is what I want for them, right? That's
Yeah.
the main thing. One like crazy like thing that sticks out, like a moment of like sheer stress. Another wedding at a private estate.
These
Again,
private estates.
I
We
know.
love you.
We love
but-
you, and they're gorgeous. But yes. And I was actually planning the wedding for a dear, dear friend. So of course, when you're doing
a
something for a
different
friend,
kind of, yeah.
exactly, you want it. Not that you don't always want things to be perfect, but there's like another
Layer
level.
of pressure there.
Right. And all the family members, and
Yep.
everybody knows you, and it's just there's a whole other thing.
Right.
We were getting ready, and they had strung all the lights, so the lighting people had come, did all of that. They left. The catering truck comes in, big truck,
Oh,
and they're
no.
backing in. We're about an hour and a half before ceremony. They're backing their truck in, and
Oh my gosh.
all the string lights crash, glass everywhere, all over the floor. I mean, it was like,
Oh wow.
I mean, I remember just like looking up for a second, and I was like, okay.
Because you didn't know how tall your truck was.
Okay, I know. I was like,
Who's driving this thing?
I mean, that's why sometimes I'm like, sometimes like in my job, I feel like, I'm like mom of everybody.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, did I really, like, should I have measured that before to tell you? Like, I thought, like,
I don't think that was in my scope of work.
I'm like, this is like outside of my normal.
Oh my gosh.
So that was like a moment, but don't worry.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh thing happened for about 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And then it was like, okay, all right, let's get
Clean
okay.
up
Boom,
mode.
boom, boom, boom. And it was like, okay, got the lighting coming on the phone, got this moved, had everybody coming in there. It was like, clean it up, move this. We got to get this restrung. We got to do this, everything.
And so you did restring it.
Everything was,
Yeah.
we got it all done.
Shoo.
Literally in the nick of time. Like, it was like moments before the guests were
Wow.
about to arrive. And it was funny because my girlfriend who did the wedding for her, probably, week or a month or so after we're talking, and she's like, everything was so wonderful. She's like, so tell me, did anything anything go like wrong? It's like, nope, everything was perfect. I was like,
now
it was
you
just
know.
so smooth. I know. Now she knows. No, since then we've talked about it, but yeah, she had no clue. She was so relaxed and wonderful, and that's the whole point. I'm
That's
like,
the purpose of you.
I'm the one
Yeah.
that should take on all the stress. I can handle it,
Right.
and I kind of thrive on it. Like I want to. It's like solving problems. How do we get this? And most everything. I mean, yeah, there's like weird situations like that, but most everything, and you probably know this too from doing weddings. And I try to, let brides know and everything. This is the first time they're ever doing this. Like when they're planning a wedding.
Right.
There's
no practice. Well, sometimes there's practice, but yeah.
We're doing this all the time. So that's why I'm like, for us, it's so much of the, okay, and then it'll be this, and then it'll be this, and it's very like, not cookie cutter, because every wedding's different, which is what I love about weddings, but
it's familiar to us.
We know exactly what we're doing. The photographer knows what they're doing, the
Yep.
florist, and that's why I always tell them, surround yourself with a really good vendor team and let them do what they do. And you don't have to worry about it.
Well, and that's what you're
This is what we
paying
do.
them for.
That's what you're paying them for. This is what we do.
So that you can relax.
Yeah, and try and remember the experience, because that's the most
It
important.
goes by so fast. Like I tell them.
So fast.
So fast.
I
so if you
know.
have someone that can delegate and handle things
Yep.
and snafus like that, then you don't have to worry about it, because also it is apparent in your photos.
Exactly.
So-
Exactly. And you would, you,
know,
definitely
you
know
don't
that. You
need
can
stress
see
face.
the
We don't need stress face.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we just need you to relax and
Yeah.
enjoy your day.
Well,
This is
and
like
the mother of the bride should be relaxed, and the mother of
Yes,
the groom, and like all the
yes.
family members, because like sometimes it's like, oh well, my mother can help coordinate this or that, and it's like,
right. No, she can't.
it's like, let her enjoy and remember this too. She deserves that.
Now, I might not feel the same way when my daughters get married.
Right.
We were kind of chit-chatting about that the other day. I'm like,
Yeah.
we're going to need a really good photographer.
I was gonna say,
And then, but I'll still bring my camera.
There
But,
you go,
I'll be, by
know.
then, like, I don't even know what they'll be shooting by then. It's mirrorless, but, like, how weird.
your daughters are gonna come to you and say,
be like, "We
"Mom,
don't
you're
use
kind of
that
out of
anymore,
touch
Mom."
with us. Sorry.
That is like old gear.
Yeah.
I remember when I first started doing weddings, it's kind of like, chasing the wrong way, but there was a gentleman that came with a Super 8 camera, camcorder.
Yeah.
But like those hadn't been used
in
like
a
a long time, like a decade
Right,
at least,
yeah.
right? And I was like, and they're like, oh no, my relative can record, and I'm like, okay, cool, and it was cool. That is awesome, but I just am I going to be that person? I hope not.
You might.
I might.
I don't know. I feel like I hear your daughters
Just
saying,
a little, we're warned, pre-warned
Yeah.
you, but
Oh.
and you can coordinate, like your kid's wedding.
I know.
Yeah.
My kids are probably gonna be like, "Oh my gosh,
No, you
please
can't.
stop."
No, we need to relax. And I
Yeah.
know that. We need to take our
Yeah.
own advice, but I'm saying
I know.
type A personality,
Yeah,
and I
it'll
can help
be-
you. In fact,
be
let me
nice.
just do it
Yeah.
for you.
I
It'll
know.
be
Let me just-
easier.
ugh.
Yeah, no.
I know. It's like the lessons of watching your kids tie their shoes, and you're like,
oh,
okay. It's like
Okay.
you need to let them do it, but
bunny
you're
ears.
just like, okay,
no,
fine, I'll do it.
or yeah, you could.
Okay, never
yeah.
mind. We're late. I'm just doing it. Go.
You know what? Just use the Velcro ones. Old Navy's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah, I've been there.
No, actually, we didn't have those Converse. Remember those little pink Converse that you could
so
Velcro?
cute that you could Velcro with the two
Yes,
Vel-
all the
I
girls
know.
had those.
Very
I love
cute.
those.
I
And like
know.
little soft bottom.
I always wanted
shoe.
like all their stuff like in my size.
I know. Okay, if you're all watching vendors,
I know.
get it
Make
in
like
our
cute
size.
baby shit, like all the little moccasins. I'm like, how come
Oh
I can't
my
wear glitter
gosh.
moccasins?
No, well,
That would look so
yeah,
weird.
some people do. Yeah.
My
No.
daughter would be like, "You're so cringy."
Jazz used to have. She really kill me. Jazz used to have like. Do you remember Children's Place? I don't think
Yeah,
that place is
they
around.
still have it. I think
Okay,
it's still in the mall.
so sequins, silver boots, but like the
Oh,
fake
cute.
Uggs.
Yeah, the
or
fake Uggs,
whatever.
but they're all sequin. Oh yeah,
Oh my
bought
gosh.
my daughter plenty of those.
Fashion statement. Like,
Yeah.
everywhere we went.
My daughter was always
Yeah.
like, "Nope, not wearing that." She wants nothing pink, nothing
No,
glitter, nothing
nothing
sparkly. I'm like,
pink. Oh, she didn't want sparkle.
"No."
Oh wow.
And here I am in my pink tutu, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Hello, I'm ready, darling." And my daughter's like, "Yeah, no,
You need to change, Mom.
yeah, She's like,
Yeah.
yeah." So,
Oh my goodness.
I know, and I
That's
just
funny.
continue to embarrass her the older she gets.
So, but we really do luxury things.
I know, right?
We're all
Yeah,
talking
exactly.
about
Sorry,
sparkle.
I know.
Sparkle Uggs.
Yeah,
But that was when our kids were tiny. And if you have
That's
children,
right.
you can relate, I'm sure. Are they wearing sparkle Uggs right now? I mean, probably.
I know,
Who knows?
maybe out. I don't know.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
No, our
So,
taste has since developed.
evolved.
And
Yeah. We're all about
so-
anthropology lately.
Oh, yeah.
So, which we've always,
Give me some
we
candles.
love. Yeah.
Yeah.
Candles. And lately, I went in the other day and they had really cool pillows. This
Oh.
is totally like
I know.
random.
Total
but,
side note. Sorry.
but yeah, they're super comfy.
Oh,
and
cool. I haven't been
know.
in there in a while.
Velvet apparently is still okay.
Yeah.
Like in.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
yeah.
Who knows? By the time this airs, it may
Who
not.
knows? Who knows? If you're watching, it's 2023.
Yeah, exactly.
So when it comes back around, like
That's right.
90s is coming back around,
Yes.
like so hard. I'm like, really?
I know.
Like,
I know.
shoulder pads again? Like,
I know. Well, and it's funny. I mean, with weddings too, you see
Yes.
so many trends. I mean, we've been doing it long enough that you probably have seen certain things
Yes.
come back around. I mean,
Yeah.
even like with vendors. I remember when I was first, doing it, it was like DJs only. Like bands, people were like,
No
no
bands.
way.
Orchestra,
that is
what?
So lame. Like no, like they think of like On the Wedding Singer or something, like just like a cheesy. You know what I mean?
Do you know who the wedding
I
singer
know.
is?
Right now, I'm again dating myself.
Yeah. It's a funny one.
But then all of a sudden it was like there's all these like amazing bands like coming out of like the woodwork, and then
Yeah.
everybody's like, oh no,
I need a
bands
band.
only. And at first I was like, oh God, I don't really have a lot of bands that I recommend because I hadn't heard, and then I started hearing a
'Cause they're not
couple
good.
because they weren't good, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh my gosh, there's like these really good bands, like really good, and. Then it was like weddings were like bands only, like DJ for after party. And now it's weird because it's like 2023.
It's kind of
having some
reverting back, right?
I'm getting like some DJ people back again. Like I love all my DJs,
Yeah.
and I use them for all kinds of events all the time. But they'll even say like they probably felt the the trend of
For
the
sure.
DJ, which was why it was so smart. A lot of DJs started really doing a lot of just audio, so they were doing
Right.
the ceremony music and sound and
Kind
things
of like
that.
MC and all these
Exactly.
all these
and
parts.
then doing after party. So they were still having a niche in the wedding. So it's like we were still
Right.
using them for certain aspects. But yeah, the band thing was really big. And then, I would say a lot of weddings that I have coming up, it's like half and half.
Right. And
So-
I've noticed a lot of the higher end weddings are doing more like bringing in the harpist.
Oh,
as they
yeah.
come,
Oh, yeah.
That's still super
That's still big
Popular.
doing, having live musicians
live
for
musicians.
ceremony.
And I think people just like the aspect of live music.
I like it
We-
too.
I mean, it just does something to the mood and
100%.
It's more relaxing
When they
and
ask my opinion, I always, say, if you're going to pay, a sound tech to play your favorite song
Yeah.
for a couple $100, or you can have a violinist for, fairly close.
like that's amazing.
Like,
Yeah.
it just adds an elegance. There's certain things, there's just certain aspects, little things that you can do in a wedding that just elevates it, that sometimes don't cost a lot of money.
And I think people don't realize that. But that
yeah.
also goes back to why it's really, I like to say it's imperative to have
word.
a day of
Right.
or just a wedding planner, just to help
Right.
you navigate. You don't.
There's so
maybe
many
don't
choices.
go plastic flowers. Like
Yeah.
maybe let's not. They don't photograph the
Yeah.
same.
Yeah.
And I'm not like anti, DIY or anything like that
Right.
because I've had some brides do some
No,
amazing
100%.
gorgeous bouquets, very
And-
boho ones that are like dried out. looking
Yes,
flowers.
and
Those are
plastic
cool.
flowers, sometimes depending on the venue, on the ceiling when you're coming down from chandeliers and stuff. We've seen some of the faux florals look so amazing.
So like high end silk ones.
Exactly. There's some ones that
Yeah.
and some florists that do that because you can hang them days before.
Well, that makes sense.
So there's a lot of pros and there's
Mm-hmm.
some cons. But looks wise, and when you turn the lighting down in the room and stuff,
right.
you're going to spend $100,000 to put fresh florals on
No.
10 chandeliers,
And
versus,
they'll get wilted anyway.
and they're going to get
by
wilted
the time
and,
you walk in.
and
Yeah.
nobody can tell the wiser. Seriously, I mean, so there's
So
certain
I think
situations
that is
you
good
can-
when it comes to like bouquet.
real.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I prefer real.
I prefer real too.
But anyway, maybe that's a topic for a florist.
Yeah. I mean, they know better,
Yeah.
but those are things that I like to help, navigate with my
Mm-hmm.
clients, of letting them know, okay, well, the first thing I say to them is, what is most important to you? I have some brides that it's all about the flowers. I want the most stunning flowers. I have other brides that are like, I could care less about flowers. I want the best food and booze. I want to spend all my money there.
Right.
I have some that say, I want the most amazing photos. I will pay for the most expensive photographer. I don't care. I want the whole package. I want everything.
We love you.
Exactly.
We love you.
Exactly. But, I always say, figure it out what your thing is or your things. Let the groom have one thing. I actually always tell the groom, I'm like, you usually get two things.
That's so nice of you.
Wisely. And it usually ends up for the guys, it has something to do with the after party. And it has something to do with the bar.
The pre-party, after party, and
So that's usually, but I always tell them, I'm like, you're going to get two things. Just choose wisely.
See, I've honestly never heard of anyone saying that.
Oh yeah, I always tell them, and I have a groom that I worked with last year that he always comes up to me and he's like, I never forgot that you told me that, and I was waiting and waiting to use mine. He's like, and I never used it. I never used mine.
My gosh.
And I'm like, what?
So he said, well, we're gonna plan another or something.
I know. I'm like, well, luckily she picked everything amazing, so you're good. But
that's really cool.
But there's things you got to pick what your thing is, and then depending on your budget, start picking what's important and what's not. And that's where I like to help give brides and grooms advice of like, okay, here's where we can cut a corner.
Right.
This is maybe not like, yes, if you have unlimited budget, yes, let's do everything. Right. But if you don't, can we get away with this and this? Like music during cocktail hour. If you have to cut an area, I would rather have a live musician in the ceremony, but then have no music or a playlist during cocktail hour. Because the only people that hear the music in the cocktail hour are the first 10 people that walk into the room. The first 10 people walk in the room, they hear what's going on. After that, when you have 150 people in a room, you don't hear any music. No music. So having, it's nice if you can have a live musician there as well, and it looks beautiful and everything, but do people really see it, appreciate it, know about it? So that's like one of those areas where I'm like, okay, if you need to save a couple $100, let's tweak that.
Good tip.
Little tip.
I love it.
Yeah. So.
Wow.
But again, there's like a million of those little things, and I'm sure you have things like that, when you're shooting weddings and stuff. But,
definitely.
but that's just the personal side that I like to share with the bride and groom. And same with like vendors. I have so many vendors that I love that I work with.
Yes.
Great photographers.
Thank you.
But there's so many different personalities, and so it's like different brides respond to different people. So, I keep a vendor list of a few different personalities of florist, a few different personalities of photographer, because
not everyone fits with everyone.
Exactly.
It's a different style, just like their shooting style or the way they might.
Oh, totally. I have just some brides that they want the florist to come in and just like do it, decide everything, make it amazing. And I have some florists that are great at that, and they will just like be like, yep, let me take over.
Right.
And then I have some that are like, have picked everything out exactly on Pinterest how they want, and they want to be like, nope, and I want this like this, and I want this like this, and this is my budget, and do it. So there's different personalities, and then there's people that are like, I don't know, I'm whimsical, I'm this, I'm that, and
they
I need
a little more.
I need like to see a visual, I need, and there's certain florists and
that do well with
that,
and other ones don't.
Yeah, so there's so many great vendors in this valley. That's why, a lot of people bring people from Orange County, LA, which is great too.
Well, sure.
But we have so many great vendors here locally that I'm like, we have some of the best here.
Yeah. I would say so.
Yeah.
I would say so.
So that's why when people, because most of the weddings are destinations. Most people,
yes.
Most of the weddings I do are people coming from LA, Orange County. I do have some, across the country occasionally because their parents either live here or have a home here, or this was a special place to them growing up or something. But, but I always tell them, I'm like, you don't need to like search too far outside the valley to find.
No. You don't.
Great,
and the nice
vendors.
thing about, I think, using the vendors here is that we do know the weather.
Right.
We do know what to
Right.
expect. We can run. We know the area.
Exactly.
So,
We know what overseeding is, and we can explain that to them of like, okay, this is what a
Yeah.
golf course is going to look like if you get married in October.
Uh-huh.
Maybe you don't want to do
no
that.
grass or
No grass.
yellow grass.
Yeah.
Or brown dirt.
Dirt in the sky, because the whole valley is overseeding, which is it's unique to the desert. They don't do
Right.
that in LA. They don't overseed every October.
Yeah.
We have a different
overseed.
climate. Overseeding.
Overseeding.
So,
Yeah. It's
yeah, it's-
seriously though,
but
because
those are
I've-
things that
I've
we all
mentioned that,
understand.
and sometimes not all golf courses will do it when they
Exactly.
should. Sometimes they
Right.
get close to that November, and I'm like, did you ask them if maybe make a phone call?
Exactly.
They're
Well, and a
like, oh, I never
photographer
thought of
in-
that. And
yeah.
I'm like, can you
Photographer in
Photoshop the
San Diego's
grass?
not going to say that.
No, I'm not going to Photoshop the grass.
And
yes,
like, you're
we
not going to
could,
want to
but
do
no.
that. You're going to be breathing in all
Well,
this.
if you want your photos like this year, then
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
no,
I know.
but yeah,
Yeah, but those are the
important
things that, you're going to think about that a photographer from out of town's not going to
That's true.
bring up.
That's
so,
true. So yeah.
but yeah.
So this
So
is
Coachella
why.
Valley vendors.
Hello. This is why we have Palm Springs Wedding Experts podcast, because we're going to
Yes,
have all
yes.
of our amazing vendors.
Very cool.
I like to call them vendor friends because,
Yes.
like you, are my friend, and
Yeah.
most of them that come on the show, well, all of them on the show will be my friends. So they're my
good.
friends, and
Yeah.
I love working with you.
Yeah, I do
and
too. I know.
We've
done
we're
some fun
very
stuff.
like similar personalities. So when
Yeah.
someone says, like, you'll refer me sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
and vice versa, and they'll say, oh, because I'll ask, like, how did you hear
Right.
about us or whatever? And they're like, oh, Casey. I'm like, oh, well then, hello, it's a shoe in.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, then you're in good hands. This is what I
Yeah.
always tell them. I'm like, you're in
Aw,
good
thank
hands.
you.
So I don't even have to worry.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to worry, because part of what we
Yeah.
do too is we make a wedding timeline
Right.
for our photos, but then that will coordinate with your wedding timeline.
Exactly.
And that's really key.
Oh, yeah.
Because I've been to some venues where they are not on that same page.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, but you could have done it this way, and we could have
Right.
done that and saved
Exactly.
time, and you could have had your sunset also.
Exactly.
And
It's maximizing
Yeah.
and being smart with your timeline. Timeline is one of those things where it's like, and I think it comes back from like my theater days
Mm-hmm.
of you never want like the audience to be bored.
no,
You can't have that
that's so
dead
key.
time. So for me, when I build a timeline, it's like you need to keep it going. People can give speeches while people are eating.
That is
Everybody
okay.
doesn't have to stop
Right.
and listen to 17 speeches. So that's like one of those things in the timeline that I like to build. I'm like, we can serve salad, then we can have somebody stand up, depending on all the other things that are
Right.
going on in the wedding. But, for me, the flow is so important. You don't want to lose your audience.
No.
You have to keep them engaged. And,
See, and I know you get that.
yeah.
So like half the
It's
time I don't even have to tell them that, because I'm
Right.
like, okay, we're good.
Yeah.
It's not going to be boring.
Right.
If you're going to have a live band or a DJ or a MC or whatever you're going to choose,
yeah.
please choose the right one for that reason also. Because
Exactly.
I've been to some where all they're doing is hitting play, and it is boring.
It's
It's
really,
not like and I don't mean it in a bad way. I just mean like it's not going,
Yeah.
and your guests will be bored.
and it's
and-
it's super obvious. I mean, it's
like,
and it's just
awkward.
like, and actually that's probably maybe my number 2 like biggest snafu moment. I had a wedding, and they had a DJ that was a friend, and this DJ, he was like a DJ, like he spun at parties. Like he's not. There's a difference between DJs that do weddings and just like a famous DJ that does pool parties, right? Like it's a
Yes.
different thing.
Yes.
And so I was connecting with this DJ prior and saying, sending him all the notes and sending him everybody's names and how are you going to do the intros and blah, blah, blah. And I was he's
Right.
like, I got this. And up until the thing, he was like, oh yeah. I was like, oh yeah, you read the timeline. You read, yeah, you got one of those around? And I'm like, of course, another printed copy for you. And kept going through it. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's like,
Wow.
no idea. Comes to do the welcome, like the grand entrance, messes up the people's names, like that are coming through, playing the wrong songs. I was like, oh my gosh. And then they were supposed to do the grand entrance right into their first dance. He's like, what's their first dance? I was like, oh my gosh, you don't have it queued up? Like, we talked about this, like all this. He didn't have any of that. I literally took the mic from
I
him.
knew you were going to say this. I knew that's where it was going.
This ship was not sinking on my watch.
Not
I was like, oh no.
sinking. Yes.
Oh no. And I just became MC of the night. I was like, yeah, sit down. The bride and groom were like, the bride was in tears. She was so upset because, and they were upset at their friend. Like, this is their friend. And it was like ruining
that
the
makes
day.
it worse.
I know. It was
Yeah.
so sad. So I was like, no.
That's
We are going to
sad.
make this amazing. And so I just became like MC Casey.
This is like what I do.
I was like,
no
I
big
fell
thing.
into it very naturally. It was totally fine.
Yeah.
So
this is what the dance parties at home are like practice, just in case.
exactly. So
Yeah.
So then, turned it all around. It ended up being a great night. The parents of the
awesome.
bride were like,
Thank you so much.
thank you. They're like, we don't know why they hired this guy. I'm like, it's a friend, which
It
always
happens.
seems, I mean, it's one of those things that sometimes people want to cut a corner because they're like, well, my friend does that or
Right.
something, which is wonderful and great. But you have to kind of understand their level of expertise in that.
Right. Yeah, like you said, not that they're not good at that, but
Well, exactly.
the
But-
DJ for a party is not the same type of DJ
right.
necessarily for a wedding. And
Yeah.
also, I think having maybe more communication up until that point, like
Right.
literally face to like that they are
Oh,
taking
yeah.
it seriously.
When he was not calling me back, never
Those
returning
are kind
calls,
of like
wouldn't go
red
through
flag
anything.
warnings.
Yeah, I was like,
Excuse me.
oh, I knew going into it.
Yeah.
I was like,
no, you
"Oh."
probably knew. They didn't know,
They
probably.
didn't know. Yeah. Yeah.
And so, as a couple, maybe double check your
Exactly.
friends
Yeah.
who are helping.
Yeah.
Because
And
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and it's great, and it's great to have your friends that can help. A lot of people have their friends officiate weddings,
Yes.
which is a big thing, which I always say is great because it makes it very personal and wonderful. But I usually
I have a story for that.
take that. I've learned my lesson from a few situations. I usually take that person during the rehearsal and say, "Have you ever officiated a wedding before?" And if they have not,
Mama Casey comes out.
I say, that's wonderful. You're going to do great. But let me give you little tips, just a few things that you don't think about. Again, coming from like the acting experience, I'm like, you need to remind the audience to please be seated or
Yes.
please rise
Right.
or, some of those like logistical things that we've done a wedding where everybody stood after the bride walked down. Everybody stayed standing the entire ceremony.
Oh, no.
Because the officiant, and I'm in the back going like
Sit,
this,
get
like
down.
this. And he thought that he was talking too loud, so he started whispering. And I was
Oh
like,
no!
oh my God.
Oh no! That's hilarious.
So then the
Could you
photographer
imagine?
the
Yeah,
photographer can
they're in
usually
your
get,
way.
they can get up there
Yeah.
and stuff. So I'm sending the photographer
Oh
up and
my
they're trying to
gosh.
take photos and whisper to him, please be seated, tell them be seated, and it was just, I mean,
Wow.
whatever. Everybody
Yeah.
stood the whole ceremony, not
That's
the worst
kind of
thing
a
in the
funny
world.
story. That's funny. Wow.
But yeah, so that's why I usually take them aside now and say, here's just a few tips.
So I had one that forgot to like exchange rings. And then at a different time, then everyone laughed because
Yeah.
then he realized,
Yeah.
hello, like that's kind of the important
Right.
part also.
Yeah.
And then another one forgot to say their vows. So
Yeah.
he like completely skipped
Yeah.
over it. So then we went back and again, everyone was laughing. and-
Right.
but it's not something that they do all the time.
Exactly. You don't think
So-
about those things. And that's why I'm always like, if you've never done
Right.
it before, I'm not being bossy or
No,
anything. I just
no.
want to give you a few little tips. Like if sometimes they have microphones, if they don't do a lapel or something, and I'm like, you need to make sure when they're saying their vows that
We can hear them.
the microphone is pointed towards the bride.
Yeah.
She's not
See,
mic'd.
Tip
and-
number 25.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's just like little things like that, sat through ceremonies where, nobody heard anything.
Yeah, me too.
Because, he was supposed to turn,
Right.
So again, so I try to like help them prior now that I've seen some of those things,
You're going to mitigate your audio, your video, yeah, any
Yeah.
kind of snafus.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
yeah.
so thankful that you're here and
Aw,
could
thank
share
you.
these little fun tips
Yeah.
and experience.
I
And
know it's fun rehashing.
It
all
is.
these, like,
we
crazy little
we
moments
go
once
through
we've
all
been through
these
it.
things, but you don't always get to like sit down with someone who kind
No.
of gets it.
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
like in the same thing. You go home after a long day and it's like your family probably doesn't want to hear and you probably don't want to talk
I
about
know
it.
you
like,
don't.
Like rehash it again, especially like the
Sometimes I
stress of it.
do, but
I know,
they're
sometimes,
like,
yeah.
okay, good night, mom.
Yeah, I know.
So
I'm like, good night. I'm
like,
gonna
good
pour a glass
night.
of wine.
Yeah, I need to defrazzle is
Yeah.
what I say. And they're like, what? I'm like, it's my word. I don't know. I have to defrazzle.
There you
See
go.
you at midnight. And then I
Frazzle.
will, I'm good. because
Yeah.
a lot just happened.
It's
so
a lot.
you're still
It's a
super
lot.
amped and excited
Yeah.
and like downloading the cards and I'm reliving it all
I
like
know.
in the
Yeah.
moment. And
I
it's
know.
fun and I love it. But
Totally. But it's
this
a high stress,
it
high
is.
energy time. And then
It
it's like
is.
you need to, so then it's
Take a
fun to look
moment.
back, like
It
in
is.
retrospect.
So this has been fun.
Yeah. Super
Thanks
fun.
so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So Casey is available for a limited amount, I should say, of events and luxury weddings, like we kind of mentioned. I will leave information on the show notes down below. Of course, we're going to tell you to like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Don't forget, we really appreciate you watching Palm Springs
Yay.
Wedding Experts. We're going to have a lot more going on, and we'll be back with
cool.
like other holiday things and other substantial
Oh, fun.
tips and different things. So
Yeah.
I'm excited about that.
Yeah,
and
well, I'd love to come back anytime.
yay, yay. She's amazing. And obviously you
Thank
can see
you.
like we get along really well
Yeah.
because we're very similar. And she's very, very knowledgeable. So
Oh, thank you.
this was just a tiny, tiny fraction
little
of,
taste. We'll have more stories.
of what you do and how you handle things. And it's just, like I said before, it's just really so awesome knowing you're there.
Oh,
It
thank
gives me an instant peace. And
Thank
so
you.
I'm blessed to call you my friend. And so
Yay.
thanks.
Same.
I'm,
Thank you.
I'm excited for what is in store for next year.
I know. Me
Yay.
too.
All right. Thanks, friends. And we
Thank
will see you
you.
again on the Palm Springs Wedding Experts podcast.